Jason, you want to just start off with a beautiful Shabbat Shalom, everybody. If you're tuning in virtually, we're delighted that you're here with us on this 9th day of Kislev in the year 5782. Here with Jason Fetty, and I'm Rabbi Marcia Tilchin. And we're going to begin our service with just a little melody. Jason's going to tool around on the guitar and get us just in a prayerful mood. Good morning, everybody. Please join me on page 63 with a little Elohai Neshama before we go into the morning blessings. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatata bi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Atavarata ta yitzarta ta nifchata bi. Viata misham rabakir bi viata tidli tlila. Mimeni lahachazi rabali atid lavo. Kol zaman shenishma'a bikirbi moda'ani lefanecha Adonai Elohai v'Elohei avotai. Ribon kol hamasim adon kol hanishamot. Baruch atah Adonai. Hamachazir nishamot lifkarim meitim. The next line is something that's so beautiful. I hereby accept the obligation to fulfill my Creator's mitzvah in the Torah. Love your neighbor as yourself. Hareini mekabelet alai mitzvat habore ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha l'reacha kamocha. I invite you to rise, page 65 for the morning brachot. You can say amen to each of the blessings. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sech vivina lahavchin ben yom u'ben laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani bat chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish harumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kifufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam roka haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesali kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam amechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam anoten li ayef koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavir sheina me'enai utmuna me'af apai. Utenenu hayom v'chol yom lechenu lechesed l'rachamim beinecha v'neicha roenu v'tigmalenu chasadim tovim baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim li'amo Yisrael. You may be seated. We continue on page 66. Yehi ratzon milfanecha me'adam mechaber ral mishay. Vein Jehu ven verid, uvein she'eno ven verid, leolam yehei adam yirei shamayim basei te'er v'galui, umodal emet v'dover emet bilvavo vayashkem vayomer. Ma nachnu, ma chayenu, ma chastenu, ma tzidkenu, ma yishenu, ma kochenu, ma gevuratenu, ma nomar lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'lavotenu, halo kol hagiborim ka'ayin lefanecha v'anshei Hashem kalo hayu, v'chachamim kivli mada. Ashreinu matov chalkenu, manaim goralenu mayafai rishatenu. Ashreinu shenachnu mashkimim umarivim erev avoker, v'yomrim pamayim bechol yom, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Atahu ad shelo nivra haolam ve'atahu mishenivra haolam. Kadesh et shimcha makdishei shemecha, v'kadesh et shimcha b'yolamecha, u'vishuatecha tarim v'tagbiyah karnenu baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh et shimcha barabim. We continue on page 72 with the Psalm for Shabbat. Yom Yom Shabbat Kodesh, Shebo Hayu Halivim Omrim Beveit HaMikdash, Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, Tov Lehodod Ladonai Lizamer L'Shimcha Yon, Lahagid Baboker Chastecha, V'emunatcha Baleilot, Alei Asor V'alei Navel, Alei Higayon B'chinor, Ki Simachtani Adonai B'folecha, B'masei Yadecha Aranein, Magadlu Masecha Adonai Ma'odam Kumach Shevotecha. We continue at the bottom of Psalm 92 as Jason leads us in a lovely setting of Tzaddik Katamar Yifrach.
Tzaddik Katamar Yifrach, ke'erez b'levanon yizgeh. Tzaddik Katamar Yifrach, ke'erez b'levanon yizgeh. שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו, עוד ינובון בשיבה. שנים ועננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורים לו עבלתה בו.
Die, 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 die. Shelo Nizkeh. Koach. We continue on page 81 with Psalm 30. Mizmor Shir Chanukah Abayit LeDavid, Aromi Mach Adonai, Kidalitani V'lo Samachta, Oivai Li Adonai Elohai Shivata, Elecha V'tirpa Eini Adonai Halita Min Sheol Nafshi, Chitani Miyor Devor, Zamru Adonai Chasidav, V'hodu L'zecher Kodsho, Ki Rega B'apo Chayim Birtzono. Mabetza B'dami, Baridati El Shachat, Hayodecha Afar V'hayagid Amitecha, Shema Adonai V'choneni, Adonai Hayei Ozer Li. Hafachta mispedi lemacholali, pitachta saki vatehazreini simcha, leman yezamercha chavod v'lo yidom, Adonai Elohai leolam odeka. Yadai dai 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 yadai dai 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 yadai dai 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 dai dai. I want to invite anybody who is in a period of mourning, either observing a yard site or during Shaloshim or a year of observance, to join us in Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 82. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divra kirute v'amlich malchute, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach, Le'alam u'almei almaya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitalev, v'yithalal, shemei dekudesha, b'reichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma, v'imru amen. Yehei shloma rabba min shemaya, V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We continue on page 83 with Baruch She'emar. Yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 Yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. Baruch She'amar v'haya olam. Baruch Hu. Baruch Oseh v'Reshit. Baruch Omer v'Yoseh. Baruch Gozer Kayem. Baruch mirachem al haaretz, Baruch mirachem al habriot, Baruch mishalem sachar tov l'reav, Baruch hailad, v'kayam lanetzach, Baruch bodeu matzil, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Hayel ha'av harachaman, Hamehulal b'fi amo mishubach u'mifoar bilshon chasidav yavadav, Uvishirei David avdecha nehalelcha Adonai Eloheinu, Bishvachot v'zmirot negadelcha nushabechacha, Unifa'ercha v'nazkir shimcha v'namlichacha malkeinu Eloheinu, Yahachid chei ha'olamim, Melech mishubach u'mifoar deyad shemo hagadol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Melech mehulal batishbachot. We continue on page 87. You may be seated. Psalm 19. Sorry, hold on a moment. Lam natseach mizmor leDavid. Actually, Jason, let's, do you have that, if you have it in front of you, will you read the English responsively, and then we'll close with Yehi Ratzon? Sure. Beautiful. For the leader, a song of David, the heavens declare the glory of God, the sky proclaims God's handiwork.
Day after day the word goes forth, night after night the story is told. Soundless the speech, voiceless the talk, yet the tell is echoed throughout the world.
The sun from its tent in the heavens emerges like a bridegroom from his chamber, exulting like a champion, eager to run his course. From the east it rises to sweep the upward, westward.
Forming all on earth as it passes.
Page 87. The Torah of Adonai is perfect, reviving the spirit. The decrees of Adonai are sure, enlightening the simple. The precepts of Adonai are just, gladdening the heart. The mitzvah of Adonai is clear, opening the eyes.
The fear of Adonai is pure, enduring forever. The laws of Adonai are true, altogether just. They are more precious than gold, even the purest gold, and sweeter than honey, the drippings of the honey.
Your servant strives to keep them, to observe them brings great reward. Yet who can discern one's own errors?
Cleanse me of secret faults. Restrain your servant from willful sins. May they not control me. Then shall I be clear of wrongs, innocent of grave transgression.
May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Yehi ratzon imrefi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri vegoali Adonai tzuri vegoali Yehu leratzon imrefi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri vegoali Adonai tzuri vegoali. You know, that is such a beautiful song, sort of celebrating the purity of creation. And of course, that's really what we're doing throughout the whole service of Pesukei de Zimra. If you turn to page 99, Psalm 148, that's sort of the culmination of actual creation. And there's a beautiful setting to the whole psalm that Jason and I will lead now on page 99. It's Navatihila.
Got it. I've caught it.
You got it. Okay, great. Hallelujah. 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 Hallelu et Adonai min hashamayim. Hallelu b'amromim. Hallelu kol melachav. Hallelu chol tzivav. Hallelu shemesh v'yareach. Hallelu kol kochvei or. Hallelu shemei hashamayim v'hamayim asher me'al hashamayim. Yehalelu et shem Adonai ki hu tzivav nirao vaya'amidem la'ad le'olam chok natan v'lo yavor. Hallelu et Adonai min haaretz taninim v'kol tehomot Eish uvarad sheleg v'kitor ruach se'ara oseh divaro. Haharim v'chol givaot eitz peri v'chol arazim hachaya v'chol behema remes v'tzipor kanaf malchei eretz v'chol leumim sarim v'chol shoftei aretz bachurim v'gam betulim zekenim im ne'arim. Yehalelu et shem Adonai ki nifkav shemo levado. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim v'yarem keren liyamo. Tehillah lechol chasidav livnei Yisrael am kirovo. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We continue on page 100 at the top. Hallelujah, shir ladonai shir hachadash. Lehesor machem big busy kim v'nich b'dehem b'chav levar zel lasot b'mishpat katuv hadar l'chol chasidav. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah al b'kodsho, hallelujah birkiazo, hallelujah bigvrotav, hallelujah kerov gudlo. Hallelujah, 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 v'tzil tzalei shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, v'tzil tzalei trua. Kol hanshama tehallel, kol hanshama tehallel, kol hanshama tehallel, hallelujah. Kol hanshama tehallel, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai le'olam amen v'amen. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael Oseni Flot Levado Baruch Shem Kavodo Leolam V'Malei Kavodo Et Kol Haaretz Amen V'Amen. We rise on page 101. Vayevarech David et Adonai Li'enei Kol HaKahal Vayomer David Baruch Atah Adonai Elohei Yisrael Avinu Me'olam V'Ad Olam. Atahu Adonai levadecha. Tahu Adonai Elohim asher bacharta be'Avram v'hotzei tomi orkastim v'samta shemo Avraham umatzat et levavonim an lefanecha v'charoti mo habrit latet et eretz hakanani achiti amori haprizi hayevusi agirgashi latet lezaro. V'hayam bakata livnehem, v'yavru v'toch hayam b'yabasha, v'ed rofei mishlach tavim salot kamo even b'mayim azim, v'yosh Adonai b'yom ahu, 102 at Yisrael miyad Mitzrayim, v'yar Yisrael Mitzrayim made al safat hayam, v'yar Yisrael dayad hagadolah, asher asa Adonai b'Mitzrayim, v'yiru hamet Adonai, Vayaminu Badonai uva Moshe avdo az yashir Moshe v'nei Yisrael et hashira hazot ladonai vayamru lemor hashir ladonai ki gaoga sus v'rochvo ramavayam ozi vezimratia Vayehi lishua ozi vezimratia Vayehi lishua Zimratia Vayehi lishua Ozi Vezimratia Vayehi lishua Ze'elivian vehu Elohei avivi arom amenu Adonai ish milchama Adonai shemo markevot paro v'chelo yarav hayam. You mean Adonai? We're on page 102. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh, norati lo tosefele. Nahamogu. Ad yavor amcha Adonai, Ad yavor amzu kanita tiviemo. Adonai imloch leolam vaed, Adonai imloch leolam vaed. Ki l'Adonai hamelucha moshel bagoyim, ve'elu moshim bahar tzion lishpot et haresav, v'ayta l'Adonai hamelucha. Ve'ayah Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. You may be seated, 104. Nishmat kol chai tivarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu. Hilu finu male shira shira kayam shonenu rina kamon hamon galav Hilu finu male shira shira kayam Ulshonenu rina kamon, hamon galav, v'siftotenu shevach kamerka verakia. Page 105. Mi yidmelach umi yishvelach umi yaroch lach ha'el hagadol hagibor v'hanora el elyon konei shamayim v'aretz nehalelcha neshabechacha unifarcha univarech et shem kodshecha kahamor leDavid barchi nafshi et Adonai v'chokir avai et shem kodsho ha'el b'tatzumot uzecha hagadol b'chvod shemecha hagibor lanetzach v'hanora b'norotecha hamelech hayoshev al kisei rama v'nisa. So as we transition into Shacharit now, again, I want to certainly, the room has filled up a little bit. We actually have a minyan in the room, and we hope that those of you who are watching us virtually are feeling connected. We're using the Slim Shalom, but whatever Siddur you're using, we begin our formal Shacharit davening with Shochenad. And this is actually a melody crafted by Rabbi Aviva Funke. I don't think it's what you think. It goes like this. Yai dai 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 da dai, yai dai 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 da dai, yai dai 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 da dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 da dai, yai dai 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 da dai, yai dai 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 da dai, yai dai dai dai, yai da dai, yai da dai, yai da dai da dai dai dai. All our praise we sing unto you. Yai-da-dai, 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 da-dai, da-dai. All our praise we sing unto you. Shochenad marom vekadosh Shemo v'chatuv rananu tzadikim b'Adonai la yesharim navatehila befi yesharim tidalo uvedivrei tzadikim tidbarach Uvelshon chasidim tidromam, uvekerev kiddoshim tidkadash. Yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai. Uvamakalot rivavot amcha beit Yisrael berina yitpar shimcha malkein v'chol dor vador. Shekein chovat kol hayitzurim lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu lehodot lehalel leshabeach lefaer leromem lehader levarech leleu lekales. Al kol divrei shirot v'tishbechot David ben Yishai avdecha meshichecha. We rise, page 106. Yishtabach shimcha lad malkeinu. Berachot vehodaot me'ata v'ad olam baruch atah Adonai. El melech gadol batishpachot el hahodot Adon haniflaot habocher b'shirei zimra melech el chei olamim. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. V'yalmadi rakirutei v'yamlich machlutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chay dechol beit Yisrael bagalav yizman kari v'imru amen amen Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitalevi talal shemei dekudesha Berichu la'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. We are on page 107 with the Baruchu. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvorei choshech oseh shalom uvorei et hakol Hakol yoducha v'hakol yeshabechucha v'hakol yomru ein kadosh kadonai. Ein kerkecha v'ein zulatecha, efes biltecha umido melach. Ein kerkecha Adonai Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh, v'ein zulatcha malkeinu l'chayei ha'olam haba. Efes biltecha go'olenu limot ha'mashiach, v'ein domeh lecha moshienu. Litchiyat hametim. Page 108, El Adon. Are you ready? El Adon, al kol
Hamasi, Baruch u'mevorach lefi kol neshama, gadol etuvo, mahalel oila, da'avnum v'chol elimoto, habim
Gael chayot hakodesh v'nehedar v'chavod al hamerkava zechut u'mishor lifnei chiso Chesed v'rachamim lifnei chevodo Tovim me'orot shebara Eloheinu Yitzaram bedat bevina uvahaskel Koach u'gevura natan bahem Liot moshlim bekerev tevel Meleim ziv u'mefikim noga Na'ezivam bechol ha'olam Semechim betzeitam Vesasim bivoam Osim b'yema retzon konam Pe'er v'chavod nodnim lishmo Tzola verina lezecher malchuto Kara l'shemesh vayizrachor Ra'a v'hitkin surat halvana Shevach nodnim lo Kol tzeva marom Tiferet ugedula, Seraphim v'ofanim v'chayot hakodesh. Page 109. Lael asher shavat mikol ha'maasim, bayom hashvihi ta'ala v'yashav al kisei chavodo, tiferet ata liyom ha'menucha, oneg kara liyom ha'shabbat, zeh shevech shel hayom hashvihi shebo sheva mikol achto. The seventh day itself, hymns praise to God, a song for Shabbat. It is good to claim Adonai. Let all God's creatures likewise sing his praise. Let them honor their sovereign creator of all, who in holiness grants rest and repose for his people Israel on the holy Sabbath. In the heavens above and on earth below shall your name be hallowed and acclaimed. Adonai our God, praise shall be yours, our deliverer. For your wondrous works, for the lights you have fashioned, for the sun and the moon which reflect your glory. Titbarach Tzureinu Malkeinu v'Goalinu Borei Kedoshim, page 110. Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu, Yotzer Mishartim v'Yasher Mishartav, Kulam Omdim Berum Olam Umashmi'im. Kulam ahovim, kulam berurim, kulam giborim, v'cholam osim be'ma u'v'yira, ritzon konam, v'chulam potchim et pihem b'kdusha u'v'torah, b'shira u'v'zimra, u'mevarchim u'mishabachim, u'mefarim u'maritzim u'makdishim u'mamlichim, et Shem Hayel HaMelech HaGadol HaGibor VeHaNorah Kadoshu. V'chulam mekablim aleihem o malchut shamayim zeh mizeh, v'notnim reshut zeh lazeh, lahakdish liotzram benachad ruach, b'safav v'rurav v'nima kadosha, kulam ki echad onim, v'yomrim b'yira, kadosh, 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 Adonai tzevaot, meloch ha'aretz kivodo. V'ha'ofanim v'chayot HaKodesh b'rash gadol mitnasim liumat serafim liumatam mishabchim v'yomrim. Together, Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo le'el Baruch nimot yiteinu l'melech el chai v'kayam zmirot yomeru v'tishmecho. Hamechadesh betuvo bechol yom tamid maaseh bereshit kamor liosel rim gedolim ki leolam chasto or chadash al Zion tahir v'nizkechu lanu meira leoro baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. Page 111, Ahava Rabbah. Ahava Rabbah Haftanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Lagidol Avitera Chamalta aleinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Bavor Avoteinu, Shebatchu Becha, Avinu Malkeinu, Vatilam Dem Chukei Chaim, Kein techanenu lamdenu avinu ha'avarachaman hamrachem rachem aleinu v'tein belibenu lehavinu lahaskil lishmo walil modu lilamed lishmor ve'lasod ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה. והערננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. Page 112, I invite you all to take a deep breath. We will recite Shema together and try to breathe in again and let it ride on the breath. Shema Yisrael Adonai V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'eleh asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha, u'kshartam liot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'v'hisharecha v'hayam Shabbat. Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor daber. Tzitzi. Jesus. Ni Adonai Elohim. Adonai Elohechem emet, v'yatziv v'nachon v'kayam, v'yashar v'ne'eman v'yahu v'chaviv, v'nechmad v'na'im v'nora v'yadir u'metukan u'mekubal v'tov v'yafeh, Hadavar hazel leinu liolam vaed. Emet Elohei olam malkeinu. Tzur Yaakov magen yishenu. Ledor vador kayam ushemo kayam. V'chison achon u'malchuto. V'monat tolad kayamet. Udivarav chayim v'kayamim ne'emanim v'nechamadim. La'adol me'olamim. Al avotenu v'aleinu. Al banenu v'al dorotenu. V'al kol dorot zer Yisrael avadecha. For our ancestors, for us, and for our children, for every generation of the people Israel, for all ages from the first to the last, God's teaching are true and everlasting. Emet shata Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, Malkeinu melech avotenu, go'aleinu go'el avotenu, yotzreinu tzur yeshuatenu, podenu matzilenu me'olam shemecha, ein Elohim zulatecha. 114. Ezrat avotenu atahu me'olam, magenu Moshe livnehem acharem bechol dor vador. Ram v'nisa, gado v'nora, mashpil geim, umagbiah, shifalim, motzi asirim, ufodeh navim, v'ozer dalim, v'onel yamo, be'et shavam, be'et Shavah Elav Tehilot Lehel Elyon Baruch Hu Mevorach Moshe u'Bnei Yisrael Lechanu Shira B'simcha Rabba V'amru Chulam Mi chamocha Ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha Nedar ba'kodesh Norah tehilot Osefele Shira chadasha Shibechu geulim Leshimcha Sfatayam Yachad kulam hodu Vimlichu ve'amru Adonai imloch leolam va'ed Tzur Yisrael kuma bi'ezrat Yisrael uvdechinu mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael Go aleinu Adonai tzavot shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. I invite you all to take a few moments to recite the Amida privately to yourselves. Feel free to begin on 115A or B if you want to include the matriarchs. This is the perfect parsha to include the matriarchs, and I'm going to be adding Bilhah and Zilpah also. And when you're done, we'll do a full repetition. I know it's not the custom necessarily of Temple Beth Emet to include the imahot in the repetition, but because today is the day that everyone has all the babies, and this is really like supercharged with Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah, although I will not add Bilhah and Zilpah in the actual liturgy. I'm going to do it today. No offense taken, I hope, on anybody's part. Page 115b. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora Ha'el Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chastei Avot U'Mevi Goel Livnei V'neihem L'ma'an Shemo B'Ahava Melech Ozer U'Foked U'Moshia U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham U'Foked Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayei Metim Atah Rav LaHoshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechayei Metim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim U'Matir Asurim U'Mekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Bal Givurot Umido Melach Melech Meimit Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'neman atah lehachayot metim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh hametim Nikadesh et Shimecha Ba'olam Kishem Shemakdishim Oto Bishmei Marom Kakatuv Ayad Nevi'echa V'karaz El Zevi Amar Ai Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzevaot Melo Kol Haaretz Kevodo Az B'Kol Rash Gadol Adir V'Chazak Mashbim Kol Mitnasim Liumat Seraphim Liumatam Baruch Yomeru Hai Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomcha Malkeinu Tofia V'timloch Aleinu Ki mechakim anachnu lach Matai Timloch b'Tzion, Bekarov biyameinu, leolam vaed, leolam vaed, tishkon, tit gadal, v'tit kadash, b'toch Yerushalayim ircha, ledor vador, ledor vador, ulenetzach netzachim, v'yeinenu tirena malchutecha, kadavar hamor b'shirei uzech. Yedei David, Mashiach tzidkecha, Yimloch Adonai leolam, Elohayich Zion, Ledor vador, Hallelujah. Ledor vador, Nagid Godlecha, Ledor vador, Nagid Godlecha, Ulenetzach, Netzachim, Kedushatcha Nachdish, V'shivchacha Eloheinu, Mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed, V'shivchacha Eloheinu, Mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed, Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh ata, Baruch ata Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh. Yismach Moshe b'matanat chelko ki eved neman kaharata lo kalil tiferet barosho natata biyamdo lefanecha ahar Sinai ushnei luchot avanim Horid biyado v'chatuv bahem shemirat Shabbat v'chatuv bahem shemirat Shabbat v'chein katuv b'toratecha v'chein katuv b'toratecha v'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash v'lo nitato Adonai Eloheinu l'goyei haratzot v'lo hinchalto malkeinu liov devas ilim v'gam bimnuchato lo yishkenu arelim ki li Yisrael amcha nitato b'yahava l'zera Yaakov asher bam b'charta mekadashei shvi kulam yispu v'yitangu mituvecha v'hashvi ratzita bo v'kidashto chemdat yamimoto karata zecher L'maseh v'reshit Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu ritzei v'imnuchatenu kadeshenu b'mitzvotecha v'tein chelkenu b'toratecha sabenu mituvecha v'sam Samchenu bishuatecha v'taher libeinu li'ovdecha be'emet v'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu bi'ava uvratzon Shabbat kodshecha v'yanuchu v'Yisrael mekadeshei shemecha Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat 118. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu b'yamcha Yisrael b'tfilatam v'hashevet avodalid v'beitecha tfilatam b'yavad tekabel b'ratzon v'ratzon tamin avodat Yisrael amecha v'techezena eineinu b'shuvecha l'tzion b'rachamim baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shechinato l'tzion modim anachnu lach. Ki lo chalu rachamecha v'hamrachem, ki lo tamu chasadecha, me'olam kivinu lach, v'yal kulam, yitbarach yitromam, shimcha, malkeinu tamid le'olam v'ed, v'chol hachayim yoducha sela v'yalalu et shimcha b'yamet hayal yeshuatenu v'yezratenu sela baruch atah Adonai hatov shimecha ulechana elehodot Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu barchenu baracha mishuleshet batorah Hakaduva al yedei Moshe Avdecha Hamura mipi Aharon uvanav Kohanim Am Kedoshecha Kamor Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom ken yehi ratzon. Are you ready? Jason's going to bring us home with a great Sim Shalom.
Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tova Ulecha, Tova Ulecha, Chel v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Chel v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amecha. Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tova Uvlecha.
Baruchenu Avinu kulanu ki echad bior panecha, ki bior panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Dorat chaim v'ahavat chesed u'tzedakah v'racha v'rachamim v'chayim v'shalom, v'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol eit v'chol shah b'shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai Hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Bi'alma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechonu v'yamechonu v'chaydechol beit Yisrael b'galav yizman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'olam la'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha. Berechu li'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen titkabal tzalot honu v'ad hon dechol Yisrael kodam avon divishmaya v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'ramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. You may be seated for a moment. Thank you very much. Yasher Koach to Jason. Thank you so much for leading Pesukei de Zimra and Shacharit for all of us. I'm inviting David Weiss up to lead us in the Torah service, which begins on page 139.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim, Adonai v'ein kamahasecha, malachutecha, malachut kol olamim, umemshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imlach, leolam va'ed, Adonai oz li'amo yitain, Adonai yivaharech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim, heitiv avirtzonecha et Zion, tivnecha ma'od Yerushalayim, tivnecha ma'od Yerushalayim. Praise be your name and your sovereignty. May your favor abide with your people Israel, and may your redeeming power be revealed to them in your sanctuary. Bless us with your light, and with compassion accept our prayer. May it be your will to grant us long life and well-being, to count us among the righteous, and to guard us, our families, and all your people Israel with compassion. You nourish and sustain all life. You rule over all, even kings, for dominion is yours. We are the servants of the Holy One, whom we revere, and whose Torah we revere at all times. Not on mortals do we rely, nor upon angels do we depend, but on the God of the universe, the God of truth, whose Torah is truth, whose prophets are truth, and who abounds in deeds of goodness and truth. In God do we put our trust. Unto God's holy, precious being do we utter praise. Open our hearts to your Torah. Answer our prayers and the prayers of all your people Israel for goodness, for life, and for peace. Amen. Bebe anaraches, velis me kadisha, kadisha yatira, anaim martush befan, be'anaraches, be'anaraches, velis me kadisha, kadisha yatira, anaim martush befan, Yehei Rabban Nama, B'kita livi v'yoraita, v'tashi mishali dalivi, v'livadecha l'amach Yisrael, l'tavo l'chaim, v'lislam. Amen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadolul Adonai iti, unerom ema shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hatineret,
V'hanetzach v'hahod, ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Adonai hamamacha, tamid naseh lechol harosh. Romemu, romemu. Adonai Eloheinu, v'shachavu, v'hishachavu, lahadom raglav kadoshu, romemu, romemu. V'hishachavu, lehar kwadsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasto, ki le'olam chasto. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasto, ki le'olam chasto. All right. Need some help?
Nope.
Got it? That's quite a keter, if I do say so myself. Where do you store this? Let's make sure. Have a seat, if you will. Okay. So, what a great parsha, right? I mean, this is the parsha where all, the 11 tribes are born, all but Benjamin. And there's a lot of focus in Vayetze on money and wealth and whose property and whose idols and inheritance. If you read it closely, the focus in the family of Lavan, and by extension, the family of Jacob, is not on love, but it's really on possessions. And, I'm not even casting a value judgment on that. It's just something that you really note when they're talking about. Although Lavan has a pretense of loving his daughters and loving their children, but it really feels to him about, and the competition that he has with Jacob throughout their relationship, from the moment that Jacob enters servitude to him in order to marry one of his daughters, and then has to do 7 more years of servitude to marry the other daughter, or to actually pay off the other daughter, because he marries them both within a week. It's really, it's very transactional. And, if you think about Jacob's life, it's a very transactional life. He knows that his mother loves him. This is, go back, a parsha. He knows that his mother loves him, and he knows to some degree that his father cares for him, loves him as well, that Isaac loves him too. But the first transaction, when he actually makes some kind of contract with Esau to take the birthright, to be able to get to the next phase, and whether it's a destiny because he's going to be the progenitor of the Israelite people or whatever, we don't know. But he's a pretty transactional man. And there's a lot of monologues in Vayetze that Jacob has when he's explaining to Rachel and Leah why they got to get out of here. Your father tried to cheat me. He didn't do this to me. He didn't touch me. It's very interesting. And the girls, their first response, Rachel and Leah, when Jacob says that to them, that we got to go, they go, well, what about our inheritance? I mean, there's that's really kind of an interesting focus, which we're going to look at in a minute. We're going to actually look at some text together. But before we go there, I wanted to talk a little bit about mandrakes. If you have a time in front of you, turn to page 174. I never thought so much about mandrakes. When I heard the story about how, Leah has 4 sons. Immediately, she has Reuben, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. Boom, boom, boom. Rachel's barren. At some point, they grow up that Reuben is in the field, and it says in chapter 30, well, first of all, it's very interesting. I mean, the whole dynamic between Rachel and Leah, we know how much, Jacob and Leah, we know how much Jacob loves Leah, so much so that he was able to sort of compromise his whole life for her. And yet, when she saw that she had borne Jacob no children and Leah had 4, she says this fascinating line, Havali vanim ve'im ayin meta anochi. Give me children, because if you don't, I'm going to die. That's what she says. And it's almost like it's an echo of Esau coming in from the field, like, give me something to eat, because if you don't, I'm gonna die. It's almost like you're echoing that first transaction. So listen to what happens. Jacob, not Mr. Helpful. Whereas he was helpful to his brother, and he says, sure, I just made dinner. Why don't you enjoy it? This one, she says, he's incensed at her, and he says, can I take the place of God who denied you fruit of the womb? Ouch, wouldn't love that. And then she said, here, take my maid Bilhah, consort with her, that et cetera, et cetera. And then she has, Dan and Naphtali. Flip the page. So then Leah, and then it's a contest. Again, it's all about things, how many, who has more. Leah sees that Bilhah has sired 2 children, so she gives Zilpah to Jacob as another wife, and they sire 2 more children, Gad and Asher. Then listen to this unusual tale. Really, and if any of you know a lot about mandrakes, I'd love to actually hear about this, because we studied it yesterday in a Torah course that I take, and it turns out that mandrakes have mystical powers, which is why it was such a big part of one of the classes in the magical potions of Harry Potter. Mandrakes are all over Harry Potter. Now I get it. And once upon a time during the wheat harvest, we're in verse 14, Reuben came upon some mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Now, what my image of mandrakes was like a bushel of something that looks like an orange. I didn't know. Why do I think that? Because if you look in the commentary where mandrakes is, the Hebrew term dudaim, which some say comes from doda or dodi, my beloved, a small yellow tomato-like fruit that grows wild in the fields and ripens during March and April. I've never seen a mandrake, but that's what I thought. It contains purgative and narcotic substances and was widely used for medicinal purposes in ancient times. It's also believed to have aphrodisiac powers. Now, the thing about the mandrakes is what's also powerful about them is the roots. So when after Shabbos you go home and you Google mandrakes, you will see these roots that look like deformed human bodies, legs and arms, and it's almost like a bunch of carrots woven together. And it's said that if you steam those, like if you peel and steam those, and that also when you lift up a mandrake, it's said to make a sound, which is why in Harry Potter they're all screaming. I'm guessing you guys might be beyond the Harry Potter years, but you should read all the books and whatever. And at one point when the kids would pull the mandrakes, they'd be like, ah! They'd be like this shriek. And so there's a lot of stories about mandrakes. You can read all about them. But I just assumed it was a bushel of fruit. But it turns out that actually the whole sort of complex nature of the mandrake and its human-like form in its roots also is what's part of the whole mystical aura of them. And it does 2 things. It makes you fertile and it makes you long for people. So Leah didn't need mandrakes to be fertile. She was having children every Monday and Tuesday, right? So why? So Reuben's bringing his mother some mandrakes. And again, listen to the transaction here. And Rachel says to Leah, I'm on page 176, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. Well, she doesn't need the love of her husband. That she has. He longs for her. She wants children. And but Leah says to her, was it not enough for you to take away my husband, that you would also take my son's mandrakes? Well, first of all, it's interesting, think about the relationship between the sisters. Rachel never took Leah from Jacob. That was always supposed to be his intended. So, the interesting dynamic there. Rachel replied, I promise, he shall lie with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes. Well, of course, we know it's going to happen. When she lies with her husband, she's going to have more children. And when Jacob came home from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him, and she said, you're going to sleep with me, for I've hired you with my son's mandrakes. I just want to point out to you again, I'm sharing this because of everything Jacob does is transactional. And he didn't say, I don't want to, I don't love you, I don't want to. So he lay with her that night. Okay. And God heeded Leah, and she conceived and bore a fifth son. and then she bores a sixth son, and then she has Dinah, before Rachel's had anybody. And then, and we have no idea if it has to do with the mandrakes, but God remembered Rachel. He heeded her and opened her womb, and she had Joseph. So I just want to say, like, I think it's just worth sort of noting that that mandrakes have historically, back in ancient times, really had these mystical powers, both for fertility and for inducing love. And there's some really interesting stuff written about that. That's what I wanted to share with you. Now, flip to page 182. Our Torah reading today we're in the third part of the triennial. We're actually going to begin at the bottom of 181, when Jacob puts his children and wives on camels and drives off all of his livestock and all the wealth that he had amassed. It's all about the wealth and all the possessions that he had acquired in Padan Aram to go to his father Isaac. And Laban goes to shear his sheep, and Laban realizes that his daughter stole his idols, and he's told on the third day that Jacob fled, and he overtakes them. And now I'm on page 183, and Laban says to Jacob, I just think this is a fascinating, this is what we're reading today, and I just thought we would look at it, and I want to hear everything you think about it. What did you mean by keeping me in the dark and carrying off my daughters like captives of the sword? Ooh. Rachel and Leah went of their own accord. And Jacob knew that. That's why he brought them into the conversation. If they had said, no, we're not leaving, he would have had to figure out something else. So that did not happen. Why did you flee in secrecy and mislead me and not tell me? I would have sent you off with festive music, with timbrel and lyre. You did not even let me kiss my sons and daughters goodbye. It was a foolish thing for you to do. I have it in my power to do you harm. But the God of your father said to me last night, beware of attempting anything with Jacob, good or bad. Very well. You had to leave because you were longing for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods? So already, there's like a whole monologue in there. Like Laban is angry, he's mad, I could hurt you, I didn't, your God spoke to me, I've had to make peace with all this, right there in those few verses, and then he goes, but you took my idols. Jacob says to Laban, saying, I was afraid because I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. I mean, this is not a loving relationship. You can feel the tension and the hostility there. But anyone with whom you find your gods shall not remain alive. In the presence of our kinsmen, point out what I have of yours and take it. Jacob, of course, did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And then it goes on. Skip to verse 36. Now Jacob had become incensed. Now Jacob's pissed. And he takes up his grievance with Laban. What is my crime? What is my guilt that you should pursue me? You rummaged through all my things. And what have you found of all your household objects? You set it here before my kinsmen and yours, and let them decide between us two. These 20 years, I mean, they're both so angry. These 20 years I spent in your service, your ewes and your she-goats never miscarried, nor did I feast on rams from your flock. That which was torn by beasts, I never brought to you. I made myself good the loss. You exacted it of me, meaning if there was an accident, because sheep would, he tended his sheep for 20 years, there were accidents, he paid his father-in-law for every last sheep. Whatever snatched by day or snatched by night. Often scorching heat ravaged me by day and frost by night, and sleep fled from my eyes. First of all, I want to know if you think that's true, the little we know about Jacob. This guy does not seem like he suffered a heck of a lot. Of the 20 years that I spent in your household, I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, 6 years for your flocks, and you changed my wages time and time again. Had not the God of my father, the God of Abraham and the fear of Isaac, been with me, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God took notice of my plight and the toil of my hands. He gave judgment last night. Then Laban speaks up to Jacob. The daughters are my daughters. The children are my children. The flocks are my flocks. all that you see is mine. Yet what can I do now about my daughters or the children they have borne? Come now, let us make a pact, you and I, that there may be a witness between you and me. And thereupon Jacob took a stone and set up a pillar, and Jacob and his kinsmen, and Jacob said to his kinsmen, gather stones. And then they made a pact. Can we just talk? Okay, that sounds like they hated each other, and then they were like, okay, let's be friends. So I just want to know what you think of this. I can't be the only one who thinks that this is sort of interesting. Give me something.
You said it so nicely, so dramatically. You kind of feel for that too, but at the end, they realized their family, and they had nothing to gain by not being cordial, especially Laban, you know.
Right. He knows I mean, listen, we can't control our adult children. And in order to not completely lose them, literally altogether, he knew that it was hopefully in his best interest to have some kind of peace with this son-in-law with who he had so much acrimony, for sure. But it's interesting because we all know families where things are an issue. It's really not about the bonds of love. And again, he and Jacob don't love each other. But they're making a family pact. It's sort of like, what do you think, Jason? What would the 12 steps have to say about something like this?
I do think that when you live in a situation which is really a survival, he talks about sheep and kind of agrarian society. You've got to do a deal. You can't move to Wisconsin and never see them again. You have to do a deal at the end of the day. So I think that there's a kind of kindness here, but there's also a kind of necessity.
Right. At that time, for certain. Now you actually can move to Wisconsin. I mean, there are families that just don't see each other anymore because it's easier not to. We all know stories like that. But I would also say that there is really some truth to both. I think that both Lavan and Jacob lie to each other, deal not fully honestly in business. Jacob didn't steal anything from Laban, but what he did with the sheep and the colors and shaving the bamboo poles and having more of the sheep that he was going to have breed instead of the weaker sheep of his father. This is what we read last year. We skipped it, but it's in this parsha. You know, that wasn't honest. That was manipulative. Did he legally take stuff of Lavan's? Not necessarily. Did Lavan totally deny him his second daughter? No, he gave it to him. He just had to work 7 more years. So there's some truth, there's some nuance in every story. And here's what I learned from that really in every complicated relationship, there is ownership of hurt and blame on both sides. And there's a way to sort of spin any kind of story in which you're both abused or both taken advantage of or both the heroes. And this ties in, this is an interesting image. Remember at the beginning, the first thing that happens when Jacob flees is that he puts his head on the ground and he sees angels going up the ladder, right? That all of us in very tense and complicated relationships really need to access our better angels and be able to make that pact so that we can live in harmony. All right, so we're going to do this Torah reading, and do we have Gabayim and cool stuff like that? Our Torah reading today begins chapter 31, verse 17. So it's beginning right now as Jacob's putting his wife and his kids on camels and sending them off, and all his possessions.
ויעזור ויגן ויושיע לכל החוסים בו ונאמר אמן. הכל הבו גודל אלוהינו תנו כבוד לתורה כהן קרב יעמוד, ראובן בן מאיר הכהן כהן, ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו, ואתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם, חיים כולכם היום.
I do not know. I have to find my place because it's in the middle of a, hold on a second. May I look at your book? It's going to take me a second. We are on page 181, verse 17. Here, so that one. We're close. Okay, Moladetecha. I know it's Vayakomer, I would just need to find it. No, that's where you're talking about in the field. Hold on. I'm sorry, everybody.
No hurry. Okay, so the second reading is like right in here.
Well, yeah, here it is. Here, right there, thank you. You're not sure? What did they say? What did they say? What did the other say?
Baruch Adonai Baruch. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vo'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amin. V'not Amanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai. Noten HaTorah.
That wasn't the right place, so I'm still finding it.
I'll step out for lunch.
Talk amongst yourselves. Really.
No, don't disturb her.
Okay, so it's definitely in here. Here it is, okay. Okay, we got it. Amen, vayakom Yaakov, vayisa et panav et nashav al hagimalim, vayinhag et kol miknehu et kol rechusho, asher achash mikneh kinyano, asher achash bepadan aram, lavo el Yitzchak aviv, artza Canaan, v'lavan halach, ligzos et tzono, vatignov Rachel, et haterafim, asher leaviha, vayignov Yaakov, et lev Lavan ha'arami, al beli higid lo, kivo reachu, vayivrachu v'chol asher lo, vayakom vayavor et hanahar, vayasam et panav har hagilad.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher notan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam notar b'tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
יעמוד לוי, יעמוד דוד בן שלמה לוי, מרדכי,
Mordecai,
לוי,
Griselda.
וזלדה, לוי.
We are on page 182, verse 22.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato baruch ata Adonai noten ha'torah. Vayugahal lilavahan vayom hashlishi ki varach Yaakov vayikach et echav imaho vayirdaho vacharav derech shivahat yamim vayad behekotaho bechar ha'gilad vayavo Elohim El lavahan ha'armihi bacha lahom halayla vayomer lo hishamer lecha pen tidaber im Yaakov mitovad. You're next. I'll leave the yod there for you. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torah Emet v'chaye olam nata b'tocheinu Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'torah.
יעמוד שלישי.
Koach, Bob, and to David. The next aliyah is verses 25 to 35.
יעמדו בת יליה, בת אליהו ודבורה, ויעמוד אליהו יעקב וחנה שלישי.
Bottom of 182. Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. וישק לבן את יעקב, ויעקב תקע את אוהלו בהר, ולבן תקע את אחיו בהר הגלעד. ויאמר לבן ליעקב, מה עשית ותגנוב את לבבי, ותנהג את בנותי כשבויות חרב? למה נאגרפת לברוח, והחבאת לברוח, ותגנוב אותי ולא הגעת לי, ושלחך לבניי ולבנותי בשמחה ובשירים, בטוב ובכינור, ולא נטשת לנשק את לבני ולבניי ולבנותי, אתה השכלת לעשות. יש לאל ידי לעשות עמכם רע, ואלוהי אביכם אמש. אמר אלי לאמור, הישמר לך מדבר עם יעקב מטוב עד רע, ואתה הלוך הלכת נחשפת לבית אביך, למה גנבת את אלוהי. ויען יעקב ויאמר ללבן, כי אמרתי פן תגדול את בנותיך מעמי, עם אשר תמצא את אלוהיך לא יחיה נגד אחינו הכר לך מה עמדי וכך לך. ולא ידע יעקב כי רחל גנבתם, ויבוא לבן בועל יעקב בועל לאה ובועל שתי האימהות ולא מצא, ויצא מאוהל לאה ויבוא באוהל רחל, ורחל לקחה את הטרפים, תשימם בחר הגמל ותשב עליהם. וימשך לבן את כל האוהל ולא מצא, ותאמר אל אביה, אל יחר בעיני אדוני, כי לא אוכל, ותאמר אליה, לקום פניך כדרך נשים לי ויחפש, ולא מצא את התרפים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah Emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
יעמוד רביעי.
The next aliyah is verses 36 through 42. Yesher Koach.
יעמוד. גאולה בן רפאל, רביעי.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Ba'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. ויחר ליעקב וירב בלבן, ויען יעקב ויאמר ללבן, מה פשעי, מה חטאתי, כי דלקת אחריי, כי מששת את כל כלי, מה מצאת מכל כלי? ביתך שמקו נגד אחי ואחיך, ויוכיחו בין שנינו. 20 שנה אנוכי עמך, רחליך ועזיך לא שקלו, ואילי צונאיך לא אכלתי, טרפה לא הבאתי אליך, אנוכי אחתנה, מיד תבקשנה, גנובתי יום וגנובתי לילה, הייתי ביום אכלני חורף וקרח בלילה, ותדאג שנתי מעיניי. זה לי 20 שנה בביתך, עבדתיך 14 שנה בשתי בנותיך, ו6 שנים בשונאיך, ותחלף את משכורתי 10 מונים. לולא אלוהי אבי, אלוהי אברהם, הוא פחד יצחק, היה לי, כי אתה רקם שלחתני את עיניי ואת יגיע כפיי, ראה אלוהים ויוכח המש.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המלך מועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורתו תורת אמת, וחי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני
Shmo.
נותן התורה.
Amen. So that was just the passionate speech.
יעמוד.
Show me where you finished.
יעקב יוסף בן אריה וטובה, חמישי. ויען לבן?
ויעשו. ויאכלו שם, ודגל ויקרא לו ללבן. Yeah. See.
ויען לבן?
ויען לבן.
I'm looking for it. I know it's here.
Yan Lavan here. Yeah, there it is.
Great. They're done.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaBarach. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Amen. Vayam Lavan, Vayomer El Yaakov, Habanot benotai, Vahabanim banai, Vahatzon tzoni, V'chol asher ata ro'eh lihu, V'livnotai, Ma'eseh la'ele hayom, Olivnehem asher yaladu, V'ata lecha, Nichrata berit, Ani v'ata. V'haya la'ed beini u'beinecha, V'yikach Yaakov aven, V'yerimeha mahatzeva.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah Emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
יעמוד שישי. יעמוד משה בן נחמיה שישי.
Our next reader is Jack Eisen, a friend of mine, part of the little posse I brought today, and we're so grateful that Jack will be reading Aliyot 5 and 6 and 7 for us today. And that is, we're beginning on verse 46. Yes, he knows. It's possible that he lost, the columns are dense. It's right in the middle. No, let me help you. The last word I had from Matseva, was I in this column or this column? Do you know? You are, I'm in this column. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Baruch hu es Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bohar bonu mikol ha'amim v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayomer Yaakov lechav liktu avanim, vaikhu avanim, v'yasu gal, vayochlu sham al hagal, vayikra lo lavan yigar sahaduta, v'Yaakov kara lo galed, Vayomer Lavan Hagal Hazeh Beini Uveinecha Hayom Al Kain Kara Shemo Galed Vamitzpah Asher Amar Yitzef Adonai Beini Uveinecha Ki Nisater Ish Mere'ehu Im Taneh Et benotai, ve'im tikach nashim al benotai, ein ish imanu re'eh, Elohim ed beini uveinecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher notan lanu Torah emet v'hayalom notah b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
יעמוד שביעי. יעמוד.
The final aliyah begins on verse 51,
יעמוד ארי בן משה וזלבה שביעי.
186.
Baruch hu Adonai Havorach.
ברוך ה' מבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'chabanu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayomer Lavan Yaakov. Hine Hagal Hazeb. Hine Hamatzeva Asher Yariti Beini Ubenecha. Ad Hagal. Eid Hagal Hazeb. Veda Matzeva. Im ani lo evor lecha et hagal hazeh. Im ata lo tavor elai et hagal hazeh. Et hamatzeva hazot l'ra'ah. Elohei Abraham ve'Elohei Nachor yishbetu v'einenu. Elohei Avihem, Vayishava Yaakov, Bafachat Aviv Yitzchak, V'yizbach Yaakov Zevach Bahar, Vayikra Le'achav, Le'echol Lachem, V'yachlu Lechem, V'yalinu Bahar, V'yashkem Lavan Baboker, Vayinashek levanav linvotav, Vayvarech ethem, Vayelech, Vayashav lavan linkomo, V'Yaakov haloch lidarko, V'yifkuvo malachei Elohim, Vayomer Yaakov kasher ha'am, Machane Elohim ze vayikra shema makom ahu Machanaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
We're going to do Misha Feira, L'Cholim, and afterwards I'm going to invite Jack to do the Chatzi Kaddish for us. But I want to just, before Jason begins, want to just acknowledge the people for whom we're thinking about and sending our healing wishes. Right now, Linda Andron and Ed Arletta, Linda Arletta, Mark Arletta, Bernice Beckerman, Rabbi Berman, Helen Brezanoff, Janet Capps, Chappie Chapnick, Grace Cherson, Hirsch Cherson, Chaya Cohen, Barbara Erler, Nancy Garber, Bernice Green, Umhani Trish Henderson, Maxine Kaplowitz, Rose Kaufman, James Katras, Dr. Hal Kravitz, Ruth Lassman, Jim Levy, Lil Lipke, Renee Oran, Harriet Pector, Esther Prehar, Michael Rabahat, Nancy Raymond, Fortunette Richard, Judy Robbins, Ed Schechter and Polly Schechter, Elaine Sokol, Pearl Tyree, Vance Tyree, Sheldon Weisbuch, Chad Wheeler, Janet White, Gil Ben Miriam, Itamar Ben Chaya Zissa Veruven, Shimshon Lev Ben Chaya Rivka Veyankel Elia, Esther Malka Chana Batia Ruth, David Ben Chaya Mendel, Leah Bat Reuven Freda, Chaim Isser ben Hindel v'Baruch Aryeh, thinking of Bev Steinberg and Dan Gallant and Mike and Sheila Lefkowitz and Blossom Siegel. And are there other names to include that were not on this list from anything? Okay, and so, but please bring your loved ones to mind. Oh, David Weiderman as well. And as Jason sings, send healing wishes their way.
May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebe'elach imoteinu b'kol ha'bracha le'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Refuah Shlema. Thank you. Jack, can you recite the Kaddish?
Yadav Yitkadash Shemei Rab.
Amen.
Amadi Brak Yurtei Vemlich Malchutei Bechai.
Hayechon v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'gala uvizman kariv. Amen.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitmam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha b'richu Leila min kobrachata v'shirata
Yesher Koach. So you may be seated. We're in for a treat. Amanda is coming up for the Maftir Aliyah as she marks the 8th anniversary of her bat mitzvah, Parashat Vayetze. It's always a privilege when a young person can come back. And I don't know how many people actually even remember their Haftorot. That would be an interesting quiz to give. Beautiful.
תעמוד, מפטירה, תעמוד. עמליה בת קרי ובאשה, מפטירה חזקה.
Sorry, it's been 8 years, guys.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Ba'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Ba'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayashkem Lavan baboker vayanashek levanav linvotav vayavarech ehen vayelech vayashav Lavan limkomo vayakov halach ledarko v'yifkevo malachei Elohim. Vayomer Yaakov kasher machane Elohim zeh vayikra shema makom ha'u machanayim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah Emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
יעמוד המגביה, יעמוד הדולל.
Yasher Koach to all of our Torah readers, and now we rise as the Torah is being lifted. Vizot HaTorah Asher Sa Moshe Livnei V'nei Yisrael Al Pi Adonai Biyad Moshe. So as we're rolling this, it's so interesting that at the end of the Parsha, the rabbis ask, suddenly angels show up again for Jacob this time. That's exactly what Jack read twice. He said as he crossed the river, he was accompanied by angels. So one question is it the same angels that were going up and down the ladder 20 years previously? And really, what is the significance of having this really, Jacob's pivotal life transition accompanied by angels both at the beginning and end? You have to figure it out yourself. The Haftarah, that's why we're talking about it, because nobody knows. 189 is today's Haftarah. And we're really excited to have Amanda chant for us.
I just wanted to add, before I begin, 2 quick little messages. So one, my dad's birthday was on November 11th, and so I wanted to do this because I didn't know what to get him for his birthday this year, and I know there's nothing that he loves more than his Judaism and his temple family. So that was one thing that really inspired me and always inspires me. And then also, I know Rabbi Kiefer has shared my portion, so it's really nice to have him in my memory when I do this each year.
Page 189.
Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'neviim tovim, v'ratzah b'divreihem hane'emorim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'b'Moshe avdo u'b'Yisrael amo u'b'nbiei ha'emet b'al tzedek. Vayivrach Yaakov Sedei Aram Vayavod Yisrael Beisha Uveisha Shamar Uvenavi Ela Adonai כשם כדאב שכו ואקרא סגור ליבם ואוכלים שם כלביא היד השדה תבקם שכחך ישראל כי בי בעזרך אחי מלכך איפה ויושיעך בכל עריך ושבתך אשר אמרת תנה לי מלך ושרים אתן לך מלך באפי ואקח בעברתי שרור אבן אפרים ספונה הטאטו הבלי הלידה יבואו לו ובן לא הקם כי אין לו יעמוד במשבר בנים מיד שאול אבדם ממוות אגאלם אחי דברך מוות אחי כתבך שאול נוחם יסתר מעיני כי הוא בן אחים יפרי יבוא קדים רוח אדוני ממדבר עולה ויבלוש מקורו וירב מעיינו הוא ישתה אוצר כל כלי עמדה תשם שומרון כי מרתה באלוהיך בחרב יבולו עליהם ירתשו והריותיו יבוקעו שובה ישראל עד אדוני אלוהיך כי חשבת בעווניך ככו עמכם דברים ושובו אל אדוני אמרו אליו כל תשע עוון וחוק טוב ונשמה פרים שפתנו אשר לא יושיענו על סוס לא נרכב ולא נאמר עוד אלוהינו למעשה ידינו אשר בך ירחם יתום ארפה משובתם אוכבנו דבה כי שב אפי ממנו אייך טל לישראל יפרח כשושנה ויחשר עכשיו כלבנון ילכו ינקותיו ויהי הזית הודו ורחלו כלבנון ישובו יושבי בצילו יהיו דגן ויפרחו הגפן זכרו כיין לבנון אפרים מעליית לעצבים אני תבשורנו אני כראש רענן ממני פרח הנמזל מי חכם ויבן אלה נבון וידעם כי יש שרים דרכי אדוני וצדיקים ילכו בם ופושעים ייכשלו בם ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם זור כל העולמים צדיק בכל הדורות האל הנאמן האומר ועושה המדבר ומקיים שכל דבריו אמת וצדק נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ונאמנים דבריך בדבר אחד מדבריך אחור לא ישוב ריקם כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו ולעלובה נפש תושיח במהרה בימינו ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניך שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך במהרה יבוא ויתמלא ליבנו על כיסא קדשך נשבעת לו, שלא יגבני רע לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד.
Amen.
על התורה והעבודה והנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
Amen. Yasher Koach. It's worth a Simon Tov and Mazel Tov. That was so beautiful. Thank you. So great. I would like to deliver a prayer for those who serve the community. I want to invite you all to rise. I'm on page 148. Mi sheberach avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu yivarech et kol hakahal hakadosh hazeh im kol kilot hakodesh הם ובניהם ובנותיהם וכל אשר להם ומי שם יחדים בתי כנסת לתפילה ומי שבאים בתוכם להתפלל ומי שנותנים נר למאור ויין לקידוש ולהבדלה ופת לאורחים וצדקה לעניים וכל מי שעוסקים בצורכי ציבור ובבניין ארץ ישראל באמונה הקדוש ברוך הוא ישלם שכרם ויסיר מהם כל מחלה וירפא לכל גופם ויסלח לכל עוונם וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם עם כל ישראל אחיהם ונאמר Amen. Please join me in a prayer for the state of Israel on page 149. We read together in Hebrew. Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Samichat Geulatenu, Hagen Aleha be'evrat chastecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shalomecha, Ushlach Orcha v'Amitcha l'Rasheha, Sareha v'Yoatzeha, V'taknem be'etza tova milfanecha, Chazek et Yedei Meginei Eretz Kodshenu, V'hanchilem Eloheinu Yeshua, V'ateret nitzachon te'atrem, V'natata shalom ba'aretz, V'simchat olam liyoshveha, V'nomar amen. I'm going to invite Jason to lead us responsively in a prayer for peace on page 149 in English.
May we see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world.
Then nation will not threaten nation, and mankind will not again know war.
For all who live on earth shall realize that we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We've come into being to praise, to labor, and to love.
Compassionate God, bless the leaders of all nations with the power of compassion.
Fulfill the promise conveyed in Scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and you shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you.
I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and it shall not be ravaged by war.
Let love and justice flow like a mighty stream. Let peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea, and let us say,
Amen. Robbie, would you honor your father by leading us in Ashrei on page 151, please? You may be seated.
Ashrei Yoshrei V'techa Od Yalu Chasela Am Shkakalo Ashrei Am Shananai Eloha Tila le David armim kalo ka melech ve'avrakashim kalil lam va'ed. Gadol anai mehulam meo v'ligdol atoen cheker. Maseka hayagidu hadarke fohodeka v'difreini floteka sika. Teka yomeru asaprena seke raftu kaya biu v'sika deka yiranenu. Tova nanai lako v'rakamava koma asaf. Koma seka. Gevoma huta yomeru gefuraka yitaberu. Mahutka mahukolami mumem chafteka bekoldor vador. Eneko elaka yitsaberu fanotin lahendo glambeito. Sadika nai bekotraka vekasi bekoma asaf. Ritzon yav yaseh ve'ashav tamishma fioshie. Tila Adonai yidaber pi vivarek kopasar shem kochol elam va'ed. Na nivarek ya taveh.
Yasher Koach, Robbie, that was great. We are on page 153. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Ki niskav Shemo levado, Hodo al eretz v'shamayim, Vayarem keren liamo, Tila lecho chasidav, Livnei Yisrael am karovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod va'os, Havul Adonai kavod shemo, Ishtachavu Adonai behadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim, El hakavod hirim Adonai al mayim rabim, Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vayishaber Adonai et arzei havanon, Vayarkidem kimo egel, Levanon v'siryon, kimo ven remim, Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yechol elayalot, Vayechesof yarot, uvehechalo kulo, Omer kavod, Adonai lamabo yashav, Vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Uvenucho yomar, Shuv Adonai rivavot alfei Yisrael, Kum Adonai limnuchatecha, Atavi ronuzecha, Kohanecha yivashut tzedek, V'chasidecha yiranenu ba'avor David avdecha al tashev b'nei Meshichecha. Ki lekach tov natati lachem, Torati al tazovu, Eitz chayim hi, Lama chazikim ba, V'tomcheha meushar, Deracheha darchei noam, V'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva. Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. If you can, I invite you to remain standing. We're going to go right into the Chatzi Kaddish for Musaf. We will begin Musaf together through the Kedusha and complete the chanting on our own. And what I was going to ask, actually, I want to take we're going to take a little break. I'm going to give you all like a few minutes to sit. Jason has been talking to me about a book that a very good friend of his from his youth had written, and I just want him to share a little bit about that with you. It's something you will definitely want to order and have on your reading list. Would you just share a little bit about your, no, because this is the perfect audience for that.
Well, it is, but I'm not really qualified, other than to say I read a book.
Yes, and you know the author.
And I do know the author. I was raised in Habonim, and a good friend of mine, his older brother is a very famous comedian in the UK. So we've just been in the UK, my wife and I contacted David Baddiel, who's the comedian, and I said, is there any chance I can get some free tickets to a show? Happen to know that you've got a show in York, which is a very famous, a very important city in England for the Jews. So, and my wife's mother lives close by, maybe 20 miles. In England, of course, that's a vast distance. But for us Californians, we didn't care, very happy to go. So David Baddiel, it turns out, has written a book. He's written a number of books, many of them based on his own family. He's kind of a funny guy. So the book is called Jews Don't Count. Why? Because David Baddiel, as an atheist, and really not much of a Zionist, suffers from anti-Semitism in the UK, as do all Jews in the UK. It's really a problem, even more than for us here in California. So he wrote a book called Jews Don't Count. I thought, well, I better read something if I'm going to go see David and hang out with him. This is a thin book. I buy the book. It was really fascinating book. For somebody like me who is confused about anti-Semitism, especially those of us on the slightly on the left of the political system, those of us a little confused, we know that Israel is at the very least complicated. So those on the left, as you probably know, use Israel and the complication therein. The way the Palestinians are treated, everybody that's been to Israel knows there's a problem. The way they're treated is used as an excuse for anti-Semitism. And this is what David writes about, because he's upset that his natural place in the political system has now been taken from him, because nobody in England, no Jew, can vote for the Labour Party, which is our natural home. Because the Labour Party is awash with anti-Semitism. So I'm not just saying that, this has been a problem for years. In fact, the prior leader of the Labour Party, the Democratic Party in England, lost his job, Jeremy Corbyn, because of this controversy. So David's written a book, and I without going into too much detail, it really awakened me, who is irritated by the state of Israel and the way the Palestinians are treated, to the truth of anti-Semitism, which has got nothing to do with Israel. Certainly not in Europe, certainly not here. I don't see, the anti-Semitism predates the state of Israel by many thousands of years.
Correct.
So, and frankly, one of the worst periods in our history was 3 years before the state of Israel was created. So, it brought me back to a more centered, more sensible, more historically correct, less paranoid place in my understanding of what anti-Semitism is in the world today. And he writes in a slightly, frankly, comedic fashion. He's very sweary. He doesn't write like an intellectual, although he got a first at Cambridge in history. He's no fool, David. So I'm buying copies of this book to give to people for Hanukkah, a nice light read.
Yeah.
Jews Don't Count by David Baddiel. It's really fascinating, and for somebody like me who goes to ADL meetings and is involved in the community, and yet sits there slightly irritated by Jews complaining about anti-Semitism, it really brought me back to a more sensible and a more, I think, politically correct place, regardless of my irritation and frustration with the state of Israel and the way.
Well, you know, it's interesting. So that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jason. And I'm hoping that through a connection with Jason, it'll be really very interesting to have this man be able to connect with. I'm sure he's going to be making some tours. Hopefully, we'll get to the States, but it would be very interesting to hear. You know, it's the same everywhere, but it's a little bit different depending on where you live. And I think it's harder to be a Jew in Europe, even still. But I don't know for how long. So we just can't bury our heads in the sand. That's what we can't do, no matter what we feel about other aspects of our lives. It's a reality. Just, you know, us and the idea that Jews are being sort of just shut out of a lot of movements because of our connection to the state of Israel, which really has nothing to do with that. It really is anti-Semitism. So there you go.
Sorry, Rabbi, just to interrupt. The reason why he says Jews don't count is because he looked at a list, he looked at the Labour Party's list of who they include. We include people of colour, we include people with gender, we include all these lists of people that we include and we embrace, and Jews are not listed on that list.
There you go.
It's really, to me, it's really shocking, and I hadn't seen it that way, and it's a Times bestseller. And when I went to David Baddiel's gig, with 2,000 people there. So he's really he's a big deal, David.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look forward to meeting him. I invite you to rise, page 155. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah V'yalma divra kirutei V'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uv'yomechon Uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala v'zman kariv imru amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach La'alam la'almei almaya Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha. B'richu la'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran b'yalma, v'imru amen. We begin together on 156a. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chastei Avot U'Mevi Goel Livnei V'neihem L'man Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozeru, O Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Atah Rav LaHoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye Metim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofech Olim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, U'Mido Melach, Melech Meimit U'Mechayeh, U'Matmiach Yeshua, V'Neman Atah L'Hachayot Meitim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaMeitim.
Amen.
Naritzecha v'gnakdishcha kesod siach sarfei kodesh hamakdishim shimcha bakodesh kakatuv hayad neviyecha v'karazel zeviyamar kadosh 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Melech haaretz kivodo, kivodo, mahale, mahale, olam haye mekom kivodo, kivodo, mahale, mahale, olam haye mekom kivodo, kivodo, mahale, olam. Mishara tav shoalim zela ze'aye v'kom kivodo. Mishara tav shoalim zela ze'aye v'kom kivodo. Liumatam baruch yomeru baruch kivod Adonai mimkomo yifen berachamim V'yachonam am yachadim shemo erev avoker bechol yom tamid pamayim b'yava shema omrim shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Hu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshienu, Hu Yashmienu Barachamav Shenit, Li'enei Kol Chai Liyot Lachem Le'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, U'v'divrei Kodshecha Katuv Le'mor, Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohayim Tzion, L'dor Vador, Hallelujah, L'dor Vador Nagigod Lecha, Ulenetzach nitzachim kedushatecha nakdish v'shifchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed ki el melech gadol v'kadosh ata baruch ata Adonai ha'el hakadosh. We continue silently.
If you're still davening privately, please continue. I'm going to pick up with Kaddish Shalem on 181. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. B'alma divrak Yerutei v'yamlich machutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chay dechol Beit Yisrael. B'agalav yizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach. Le'alam alal me'almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei kudashah. Berichu li'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Tit kabal tzalot honu v'ad hon d'chol Yisrael kodam v'honi v'shmaya v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. 182. Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkeinu, ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Michemalkeinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shektiru Avotenu, Lefanecha et Ketoret Hasamim. Aleinu lishabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishbechot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegoralenu kechol hamonam, vanachnu korim. Lifnei melech malchei hamachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yosei haaretz umoshav yekaro b'shamayim imal ushchinatu zo begovei meromim. Hu Eloheinu einod, Emet Malkeinu efezulato, kakatuv betorato, v'yadata hayom v'hashevota el levavecha, ki Adonai hu ha-Elohim, Bashamayim imal, v'al haaretz, mitachat einod, al kein nekabel echad Adonai Eloheinu, l'rot meher rabbi ferdu zecha, l'ha'avir giluli mina aretz v'alim perudim, l'takein olam b'malchut Shaddai. Ki al malchut shecha hi ula'omea timloch bechavod, kakatuv b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, yiyeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad. You may be seated. This week, Temple Beth Emet remembers the following people: Harry Enton, Pauline Zwick, Sam Boren, Max Borak, David Brezenoff, Esther Chaperson, Morris Gord, David Schwartz, Glenn Scher, Sam Weiss, Leslie Devon, Helene Menashe, Fred Wallach, Charles Wedner, Ada Wilson, Jean Brodsky-Berman, Esther Goldstein, Irene Greenblatt, Betty Lichman, Shirley Loeb, Benjamin Friedman, Sadie Messy, Edward Rodman, Helen Rosenwald, Max Spiegel, Habibola Tabizadeh, Louis Weiss, Hyman Cohen, Adrian Sturmer, Stephen Joseph Waxman, Reuben Greenberg, and Solomon Sherman. Are there other people that we are remembering this week specifically? Well, may Tehi Zichram Baruch, may their memories endure as a great blessing for all who know and love them. And for those of you who are in your period of mourning and saying Kaddish, we invite all of you online and in person to join me in the Mourner's Kaddish as we honor the memories of our loved ones together. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Bialma Divrak Kirute V'yamlich Malchute V'chayechon V'yomechon Uvechaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Uvizman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach La'alam Ula'almei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yitalev V'yithalal Shemei Dekudesha Barichu La'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechamata Da'amiran Bi'alma V'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. So I have some, I assume there's somebody from this congregation who's making announcements. I just want to say that beginning on Monday, the Collaborative is starting a 4-week, as part of our Advanced Learning Institute, which is an online class that meets every Monday at 9:30, and you're all welcome to join. It's free. We have different scholars. We finished a stunning 13-week survey of the book of Daniel, which I'd never learned before really in depth, with a wonderful rabbi who's also a Bible scholar. We're beginning a 4-week course called Disruptions in Jewish Music. And it's basically a very intensive 4-week history about sort of how things moved from the temple to Debbie Friedman, but done by a lovely guy named Matt Austerklein, who's a colleague of mine and getting his PhD in music. So this starts on Monday. So I'd love for you to tune in. And you just, we'll send you an email with a reminder and a link, or you can just find me and I'll make sure you get the link if you'd like to do that. Jason has a few concerts coming up. Is there anything that people want to know about? You know, Jason is a very well-known musician in Orange County. I met him through Temple Isaiah, which he serves with Eric Dangot regularly. Is there anything special that our friends here would like to know about?
Well, I want to sign up for the music course.
Okay.
I'm going to be late this Monday. Is that okay?
That's okay.
It's okay.
No, it's online. No one will care, Jason.
All right,
it's okay. And it's all recorded, so you can watch the ones you missed.
I just want to let people know that it's all right if you show up late, whatever. It's not you're not doing a PhD, so you're good. But I'm very interested in that. Yes, I have a couple of things. I do lots of things. The way to be an artist today is to do a lot of things, get a few $100 there, a few $100 there, blah, blah, blah. If something falls off, it's not the end of the world. Something will come and fill the vacuum. So, I have a Joe Cocker tribute band. This is the greatest. If you like that music, that era of music, you're going to be blown away. 9-piece. I don't want to go into too much detail now, but major musicians.
They're awesome. They travel all over the country.
So, 29th of December, Coach House. It's kind of in between Christmas and New Year. Not a good time. Please support. 29th. And the 29th of January, my wife and I have a Shakespeare show. My wife is an actress, and I wrote tunes for the songs of the plays of William Shakespeare. The words we've got, the tunes are lost to time, but it's a really fun show. We just did it in London, great success. We're going to do it, and we use local actors to do 6, 7, 8, 9 of the speeches, and I play 10 of the songs. So that's the 29th of January in Laguna Beach. We're going to film it. This is important for us. So all of this information is at jasonfeddy.com.
There you go. And let's talk about Beth Emet. First of all, you have some great stuff. On November 21st, you have your Women's League paid up membership lunch. That's always really fun. I've come sometimes to that, and it's beautiful. And Hanukkah, of course, begins right after Thanksgiving. On November 28th is the first candle, and on December 5th is your Hootenanny. And I believe the lovely and talented Scott Spitzer, who happens to be my husband, will be playing with Rabbi Berman at your Hootenanny. So that will be a lot of fun. And as you know, and people who are watching us, Beth Emet's transportation program is going strong. If you need no-charge Lyft rides to and from TBE for services, I hope I'm saying this right, you can contact Jack Zakowski, Ken Levin, or Barry Klatzker, and to enroll in the program. And let me just say, if somebody's watching this and they don't know anything about it, if they were to call the office, could they get the right information? Good, that's what I wanted to know. I haven't been wearing a mask, but everybody in this room has been wearing a mask at the services and for all temple functions. Vaccinations are required if you're going to join us in person. And poker is playing again on Thursdays in the multipurpose room. Obviously, they're wearing masks when they're playing poker. You know, it's very hard to have a poker face. It's actually really easy to have a poker face if no one can see your face. This is the perfect time to come play poker. I love it. And there's mahjong and all that good stuff. Pick up one of these, or the office can probably send you an electronic copy. Yes, Barry?
Okay, there's a couple things left out in here.
Please.
One of them is the Mitzvah Day all year long, but this particular time for Thanksgiving, we're having a Mitzvah Day. We're bringing non-perishable or canned goods to the temple by Tuesday, and we're going to be giving them to the
There's a school, a local school. Orangewood School.
to support their needy families, so they'll have a good day, a big Thanksgiving.
So tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday, if you can bring non-perishable food items, they would love to be able to distribute those to people who will really benefit from those. So thank you. That's great.
You can bring it tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday.
Okay, tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday.
You can also get gift cards.
Oh, right. And Bill. Anyway, on behalf of Jason, we want to thank you for letting us join you today. It was really fun to be with this sweet congregation. And we're going to enjoy, I guess what we'll do is we're going to make Kiddush and we'll close with a Don Olam. So without further ado, please rise if you're able. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam berit olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti li'olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti li'olam, ki sheshet yamim, Asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayi nafash uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayi nafash Al kein beirach Adonai et yom HaShabbat vayikad shehu savricha ve'rai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Amen. Birshut Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu lechem min haaretz. These challah rolls remind me that we had a beautiful dinner here last night, and it's very exciting because Beth Emet has just engaged a new caterer, so there's going to be delicious meals served here going forward, and we hope you'll be able to join us. I especially want to say hello. I hope Rabbi Berman and Chaya are watching. We wish you a refuah shleiman. We miss you. Send all of our love. And Zev, if you ever watch this service, we hope you had a great time at the bar mitzvah, and can't wait to be with you again. Okay, we're going to close with a Don Olam. Here we go. Oh, is there anything more? Did I miss anything? Okay. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chefso Kol Azai Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra B'yacharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu haya, v'hu hoveh, yiyeh b'tifara, v'hu yiyeh b'tifara, v'hu echad v'yein sheni, lehamshil lo lehachbira, b'li reshit, b'li tachlit, v'lo haoz, v'hamisra, v'lo haoz, v'hamisra, v'hu eli, v'chai goali, v'tzur chevli, b'yetzara, v'hu nisi, umanos li, menat kosi, b'yom ekra, menat kosi, b'yom ekra, b'yado afkid ruchi, v'yeti shan v'yaira, v'im ruchi geviati, Adonai li v'lo ira, Adonai li v'lo ira. Happy birthday to Lou and anybody else who had a birthday this past week or this coming week. Thank you, Jack, so much for joining us to read Torah as our special guest, and to Amanda for a beautiful Haftorah. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you very much. Good Shabbos to you.